Welcome back to another edition of Faces in the Corsair Crowd. Today I'm joined by Greg Homol. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Greg Homol. I work in the athletics department in the fitness center. I'm the director of the fitness center.
You've been around UMass Dartmouth a long time. Talk a little bit about your history with the school.
Well, how long do we have? So, yeah, I've been involved in some way or been heading to UMass Dartmouth for most of my life, starting back in 1989 when my brother was a freshman playing on the football team. And him and I had and still have a very close relationship. So we were brothers and friends. So I was up there all the time at his games. His friends were my friends. So, that started it, when I was 16 years old. Um, 2 years after that, after he was a freshman, it was my freshman class, so my high school class. They were freshmen there. I did not attend college right away, but I was still there with my friends, hanging out. My actually high school girlfriend went to UMass Dartmouth, so I visited her quite a bit up there. And then in '93, I became a freshman myself. I started college a couple years later after joining the National Guard, and played on the football team for 2 years there, and decided on what I wanted for a career, and that was athletic training. So I was forced to transfer to Bridgewater State, which I say forced to, but I loved it there as well. And so when you get into the athletic training program, your first clinical rotation is basically observation hours. And I had asked if I could go to UMass Dartmouth to do mine, which was bittersweet. I don't know how good of a decision it was, because I found myself in the fall of 1995 on the sidelines of football games with a fanny pack instead of a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And my teammates looking at me like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be on the field." And there were even times where Coach Cavanaugh would yell out my name, like he expected me to be running out on the field. So that was tough, but it was nice as well to be with my teammates as I moved on to my next chapter. And then the next couple of years I was at Bridgewater doing other clinicals, and when it came to my senior year, before I was ready to graduate, I had asked if I could go back to UMass Dartmouth now to finish my time, and I was granted that access. So I was able to work on the then have a head athletic trainer, Louise Goodrum, who became a great mentor of mine. And as I was finishing up my college career in the December of '99, the fitness center that was being built on campus was being built. I mean, it was just being finished. And it just, stroke of luck for me that as I was getting my degree, that fitness center was opening, and there wasn't really, there had never been one before. So there was no staff. So I was hired as the kind of like an interim fitness center supervisor. And, you know, the building was empty my first day of work. I hadn't even been hired yet. I was in there looking at the place, still working in the training room, and Big Fitness was backing down their trucks with equipment and said, "Where do you want this stuff?" And I ended up laying out the entire place before I started. So it's been mine since day one, I guess. So I started in that role as interim in January of 2000, and in July of 2000, I was hired actually as UMass Dartmouth's first fitness center supervisor.
Mhm.
So I did that for a few years, and the job just, we started off with, people just signing in on a piece of paper. We really weren't relying on computers much, and I'm really dating myself. We had a couple of Group X classes a week. We had equipment that was barely above like condo or a hotel grade. It wasn't really high commercial grade. We'd have maybe a couple hundred users a day. We were open like 60 hours a week. And that has since grown into, something that, we have 4,000 to 5,000 users a week, over 100,000 total swipe ins a year. We have 30 hours of Group X. We added on in 2013, we put on an addition that was 8,000 square feet on top of our existing 10,000 square feet. My title changed from fitness center supervisor to fitness center director, as I was kind of just doing all roles, and had already kind of built it from the ground up, deciding on staffing and hours and what programming we were going to use. So it was a blank slate when I got there. So I've seen a lot of changes, seen a lot of great things on campus, championship teams, an undefeated football team, a couple of NCAA tournament basketball teams, hockey team, some national champions. It's just been, just great success that I've seen. But other things as well. I was on campus on 9/11 and watched, the planes hit the towers. I was on campus the day we found out that, one of the Boston bombers was on campus. I called the FBI that day to alert them that he was on campus the day after. And I then later was, I testified in the trial. So I know I was on campus a couple of weeks ago when domestic terrorists tried to overthrow the government. So, big things in my life that have encountered have in some way, I've either been on campus or UMass Dartmouth has been a part of it. And surprisingly as well, I said I started in January of 2000. My official start date was July 2nd of 2000, which was also the date of my wedding. So my first 2 weeks officially on the job, I was on my honeymoon. So that was kind of interesting as well.
I think it's a good way to spend it.
Yes, it was.
So what's your traditional role on campus been like typically?
Typically, day to day, the fitness center is a booming place. So just being in the facility every day, we have a full staff of work study students, we have classes, it's high activity. We also, through my office, we run strength and conditioning. So we have a varsity room in the facility, which is one of the things we added when we upgraded in 2013, where there are 3 strength and conditioning coaches on staff. And so that's a very active varsity room that we added, is a very active place as well. So yeah, just running of and being part of a fitness center is it's an active place.
Mm-hmm. And how has that role evolved throughout the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, that role, like everyone else's role, kind of got minimized. We weren't able to, being that it happened in March and it was right around spring break where everything started to happen and the world changed. Students didn't come back. So we shut down and just started trying to figure out what was next. How were we going to move forward? There was so little that we knew about the virus that it just felt like we became planners, and planners based on hypothesis of what was going to come next, and those plans constantly change. But it was what are we going to need to do as far as keeping everyone safe? What PPE we're going to need? What upgrades do we need with HVAC? How can we become touchless? Are we going to survive this? What is this going to do? Mm-hmm. Just so many questions, and I think that took up most of the month of April. From March into April, it was just a lot of questions, a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings, a lot of planning. And I can't say how much of that planning is actually what ended up being put in place in September. I know that there were good roots that we put in, but everything's just been so evolving and so changing. But I think that helped too, to be active in trying to get a solution. I think it helped get through it. And then beginning in May, recognizing that people were isolated and lonely and disconnected, I decided I was going to start doing a daily boot camp class. I have a core group of staff members on campus that attend. I do during the regular time. I do one twice a week, and I let them all know that I was going to start doing it. So then I just kind of educated myself a little bit more on social media, on using Zoom. So I was recording workouts Monday through Friday on Zoom. I was putting it up on Instagram. I was putting it up on our website. I started just putting out information to the campus community on the importance of exercise and physical activity and good nutrition, and how those things help boost your immune system and just helps you live happier both mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. And that took me into around August when my role kind of changed, and I'm not sure if you want me to get right into that
Yeah,
next.
sure, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was first alerted by my athletic director, Amanda Van Voris, that the campus was going to start a robust surveillance testing program for COVID for all students, faculty, and staff, and that my name was floated out there as someone that might be involved in that. And Dr. Marianne Sullivan had requested that she could speak to me about taking on that role as project manager for the testing facility. And it's different for me. I mean, I'm accustomed to facility management, but this is a medical testing facility. It's COVID. A lot of questions. You know, I had a lot of questions about it. I was excited about it. I was proud to be asked to be put in, you know, my name to be put in the hat is to take on something. I knew this was important. I knew that the campus, you know, was probably depending on it, you know, our return and hope, you know, to normalcy. So I was excited about it. And, you know, I would say it didn't take me long. Once I spoke to Dr. Sullivan about it, it didn't take me long to jump right on board and get right into it. It was just, like I said, I felt the need to do something to be part of, even if it wasn't part of a solution, part of a mitigation, part of getting us in a position where we could move on through this, or at least get through this.
Mm-hmm. What did the day-to-day operations in the testing center look like?
Well, again, it was almost like what I talked about when we opened the fitness center. There was nothing in place when we went in. You know, the only thing I knew that we were going to test in Woodland Commons. Mm-hmm. So we had to decide how we were going to do this. How are we going to process people through while keeping everyone safe? You know, not having large numbers of people in the building at one time. How are we going to, you know, separate the registration people from the people registering? How are we going to do the collection monitors? So it was, you know, most of the month of April was just doing that, figuring all that out, getting all the logistics, you know, getting people credentials on the computers, getting laptops. We didn't even have laptops to run the facility in the beginning. There were just so many moving parts and so many people that stepped up and did incredible work to get that all established. So, you know, once we get to the part of opening, we basically we did kind of a soft opening in August and did some testing just to get everyone accustomed to how we were doing it, running through our processes. And then move-in weekend in the fall was the big one. Mm-hmm. Where we tested every resident as they moved in. Before they could get their keys, they had to come through the testing center. So in day to day, it's just, you know, making sure that we had a staff. We didn't really have a staff. There was going to be a lot of redeployments of staff members from other places on campus, but there was a little bit of resistance. People were nervous to be in the testing facility, understandably, when, again, there was so little known. And you think that if we're having a testing facility that there's just going to be a bunch of infected people in the building all day. And that's just not the case. And we made sure that that wasn't the case. So we had to put out requests for volunteers, for people from other places on campus. Hey, your job might have slowed down a little bit like the rest of ours. We could use some help over here. And there were so many people that stepped up and did that. So, but it was a disjointed staff. So, you know, one of the biggest challenges was making sure that we had enough people in the facility every day to make it run smoothly. That, you know, if just to me, one of my biggest concerns was having long lines. A long line is a bad look because people are not going to social distance. They're going to, if a group of friends comes together, even though we have, you know, the social distance markers and all that in place, they're going to stand on the same one and have a conversation. And I never wanted to have that look. So staffing was important. Getting people through quickly was important. And once we got through, you know, people come to the front door, they get greeted, they're asked if a couple of questions, if they've had close contacts or if they've had any symptoms. We just refer those out to health services. If there's no symptoms and no issues, they come through. Once they register outside, and then they get their registration and their testing supplies, go right into the room, do that collection, and out the back door. So it's in one door, out another door. Once somebody's been through once or twice, they're not in the building for more than 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes tops. So it's just maintaining those efficiencies, chasing results, making sure that, the positive results get dealt with by the case managers. That was more on the health services side with Dr. Sullivan. I would be more chasing results. Like if the lab that we use called Broad Institute is amazing. It's a combination of Harvard and MIT, and they are amazing. They average 17-hour turnarounds with our results. I mean, we talk about people who go get tests. My mother-in-law down in Florida had to get tested the other day because she had an exposure, and she was told 2 to 4 days. So our average time for results, or their average time, not just for us, for all of their customers, was 17 hours in the fall semester. And they had done up over 100,000 tests a day. And this semester, they've doubled their capacity to be able to do up to 200,000 tests a day. So we're very fortunate, as our students and employees, to be able to test with the ease that we can and get the results as quickly as we can. In a horrible situation that we're in with COVID, we're very lucky to have chosen this lab to work with, and to have that ability to have that peace of mind.
I made it through the testing center a few times in the fall, and I was really impressed to see how quick that turnaround process was. And on top of all that, in the fall, you also had the training staff working with student athletes to get them back to shape. What were you guys able to do for those student athletes who were able to be on campus?
Stay connected. Not only the student athletes on campus, but off campus. The two guys I work with, Brandon Williams and Sam Heavey, did an amazing job with staying connected with the athletes. They did programming online. We use an app called Team Builder, where our athletes have their workouts delivered to them right through their phones, and they're able to track everything they do. We're able to see what they do. We're able to put questionnaires on there to see how they're feeling physically. We're able to, see how they're doing mentally, which was a big part of it, just the isolation and being away, and our athletes, who lost seasons. There's just a lot to unpack there. And so our guys, kept information up on Instagram. Brandon would post like weekly warriors, those athletes who did, all of their workouts. We really just stayed connected and set expectations and gave options. Hey, you can't go to a gym, but this is what you can do. You're going to get a lot of force production out of just going outside and sprinting. Find a field, a park. There are ways that we can keep doing this and try to get you as ready, because this is going to end and we are going to get back to doing what we love to do. So we need to just stay focused, keep our eye on the prize, and keep moving forward. And like I said, they just did a great job of that, just staying connected with all of our athletes, not just the ones on campus.
Now we're gearing up for a shortened basketball season. What's it been like having student athletes back on campus and preparing to compete again?
Great. It's even though sometimes it feels like things are getting worse, that's still a sign that it's getting better too, that we're going to overcome, and we're going to get back, like I said, back to doing the things we love. There's just it's a different energy. You walk into the Trip Center and you hear basketballs. It just, I remember at the beginning of September, and I was talking to my counterpart at UMass Lowell. We were the two that opened. Amherst and Boston didn't open, and we were the first to open. Lowell opened, I think, the day after us. And I remember reaching out to Peter and saying, "Man, did that feel good just to open the doors today?" After not being there for so many months. And he echoed the same thing, how he just kind of smiled as he walked in the day he opened. So this it's more of the same, to have that little bit of normalcy coming back. I mean, there's apprehension about it, because things do look like they're getting worse in the world, and it wouldn't take much for it all to end. But so far things are going great. We have like you said, a few of the teams in, and the athletes are excited, and they're smart. They're being smart. They're asking good questions, but when the seasons were going to start, they had concerns. And so they're buying in. And all of our students on campus are buying in. I mean, we ended the fall semester with 0.5% positivity rate on campus. I mean, that takes a group effort. That comes from everybody doing the right things and making smart decisions. When out in the world, you're seeing, positivity rates from testing as high as, 5, 10, 15% in some places. So to be 0.5%, there has to be a collective group effort to get that done. So I've been very impressed with our students all over, but I know that our student athletes have asked really good questions, and they're invested in keeping this moving.
Mm-hmm. Do you think these experiences in the last year have changed your approach to your work?
I think yes, the experiences for sure. I had the great fortune of working under Dr. Marianne Sullivan, Director of Health Services, for this past semester. And it's always it's great to work with different people and see how different people manage things, manage stress, manage conflict, deal with things that you don't have a blueprint for. And, she's kind of what I aspire to be. She's, so thoughtful, and because she remains so calm, she's able to access so much information that's in her brain. And sometimes when we get flustered, or if we get elevated or dysregulated, we're not able to access all of that because that tension is rising. And I just don't see that in Marianne. She's just very, very level, which just lets her how intelligent she is just shine. And so I think that my approach is to slow down, and I'm probably not slowed down in this interview. I tend to speak quickly, but it is to kind of just slow down, and it's okay to take a minute to get the right answer, and to even devise a plan before just giving that quick answer and not getting it right. So I would say that would the experience that I've had with her has changed my approach in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is to just be a little bit more thoughtful and focus on getting those important decisions right more than fast.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I appreciate getting to know another face in the Corsair crowd.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. And we'll see you all next time on our next edition of Faces in the Corsair Crowd.